it's a trap. You can see on chain that 97.5% of people lose money.
The gap between wealth and the poor has never been as big as it is right now.
The 100x is not going to happen in DeFi. The 100x is going to happen in memes. I think this strategy will outperform everybody.
Meet Murad Mahmudov, also known as MustStopMurad. He has quickly become one of the most influential voices in the crypto space because of his unique approach to the markets.
My whole philosophy is just to hodl until the very end.
He's most well known for his insights in the Memecoin space, supporting big communities from early on. This cycle, Memecoins have been the best performing niche thus far, and Murad is right in the trenches of it all.
In order to build a cult, you need to make poor people rich, or middle-class people richer.
Would it be a risk for crypto?
No, I think it's just postponing the inevitable. When that happens, I think both BTC and other crypto assets are going to go down.
How do you derive which meme coin you add to your list?
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 reasons. First reason is...
So, Murad, quote, "The meme coin supercycle isn't a prediction, it's the future. The utility coins in essence have been significantly underperforming to meme coins in this cycle. Why isn't this just a hype or a snapshot in time where utility coins are going to do better in the coming year? Why is it a significant change in the market?"
Yeah. So a lot of people think that meme coins represent the fact that the space is becoming kind of stupider and sillier and more degenerate. I actually have the opposite opinion. I think the rise of meme coins represents the maturation of the space. And I'll tell you why. For the past 10 years, we had this loose group of altcoins, tech coins, utility coins, and it was kind of unclear, like, were they cash flow coins? Were they pure utility coins? Were they a bit of both? Or were they meme coins all along, right? My thesis is that most of them, especially the ones that don't produce significant revenue, especially the kind of revenue to justify their valuations, they've essentially been meme coins all along. And I think what meme coins are doing right now, in the next 2 or 3 cycles, you're going to see a split. So these altcoins of the past, they're going to be split into 2 categories. On one hand, you're going to have what I call cash flow coins. These are serious coins with serious revenues, distribution to stakers. Hopefully with increased regulations, they're essentially going to become quasi on-chain equity, quasi on-chain stocks. We have centuries of knowledge on how to value these assets. And on the other hand, you're going to have meme coins that represent kind of this pure crypto spirit, pure community, pure speculation, the tokenization of the intangible, right? Artwork, culture, community, and all of that. And I think the rise of meme coins essentially is the first step to split the entire altcoin complex into these 2 categories, which one is going to be like serious cash flows, and the other one is kind of like pure speculation, pure vibes, pure community. Because for a long time, altcoins were essentially meme coins pretending to be something serious, and you won't be able to do that anymore. You'll either need to be really good at attention capture, community capture, and memes, or you'll need to make real revenues. You won't be able to kind of like be in this weird middle. And I think so the rise of meme coins is essentially a step towards this bifurcation, which I think is actually making the space more mature. Because now you won't be able to kind of have, you won't be able to be this like high FDV, low float VC coin and just coast along at high market caps without actually having either of these 2.
Is it like, is 2021 already, or was 2021 the signal that meme coins were going to be big? Because during that period, we had Shiba Inu, Floki Inu, Pepe, and also during that cycle, one asset outperformed the 2017 high, which was Dogecoin, which is also technically a meme coin or whatever you would call it. Was that cycle already signaling what we would be seeing during this cycle?
Yes, but the way I would frame it is the following. I think there were 6 or 7 signals that kind of led to meme coins becoming particularly big this cycle. So, you know, a lot of people think that the meme coin super cycle started this cycle. I actually think it started in December 2013 when Doge first was created. And if you study the peaks of each cycle, you will see that in 2017, there was one meme coin, which was Doge. In 2021, there were already 5,000 with the famous dog season, anime season. And right now, you already have like 5 million meme coins or more, and the rate of growth keeps increasing, right? So it's a geometric progression. I actually believe that inflation and growing money supply, essentially why meme coins are rising, right? People are going further down the risk curve. And this is just purely from economic reasons. There's social, spiritual reasons as well that we can get into. But essentially, every 4 years in crypto, the core narrative is becoming kind of like more crazier and more speculative. So in 2017, people at least pretended that blockchain is going to change the world. We are going to have blockchain for this, blockchain for that. You know what I mean? In 2021, it got crazier with kind of metaverse, NFTs, DeFi, yield farming, Ponzi, etc. And right now, it's a meme coin and AI cycle. So it's essentially things are becoming more speculative. As there's more supply of money in the world, young people are being pushed further out the risk curve. They don't want to buy traditional assets anymore. And this is just like one of the 12 reasons why meme coins are kind of emerging right now.
And is it like, it's an interesting one. You say people are going down further on the risk curve. That is something I actually was watching your Token 2049 presentation. The gap between wealth and the poor has never been as big as it is right now. Are the meme coins like sort of grasping the opportunity to make that jump, and that's the only jump they can still make?
Yes. So this is the way I see it. The meme coin space right now is being split into two categories. On one hand, you have hyper gambling, very fast paced, new launches, pump funds, kind of aggressive rotations, thousands of launches per day, etc. You get the idea. On the other hand, you have 10 to 20 coins that are trying to build the next Doge. They're trying to build something that's going to be 20 billion or more, 50 billion or more, trying to build a brand, trying to build a movement, hopefully trying to build something that's multicycle. I think the first category, the gambling category, it's a trap. You can see on chain that 97.5% of people lose money, and then another 2% just make a little bit, and only like 0.3% of people make anything more than 2K. The other, I think, is better risk reward. You want to join a community that is disproportionately filled with non-traders, but rather investors, believers, hardcore holders. Essentially, my theory is the more similar a meme coin is to BTC, the further it's going to go.
And what is like, the past period, I was jumping into a few of those meme coin communities. I'm more of a investor into the markets, which is fine too. Meme coins, I've been trying to get a grasp on them, but I think I was in the first category where I've won some, I've lost some. It's just like you're going to a roulette table and you just see what comes out of it. But once you join a community, it brings me back to when I started, which was in 2017. Like, it's super hyped, it's fun. You're joining a group of usually gents that are just enjoying their time being together. Like, what is it that is pushing all those communities further?
Yeah. So I totally agree with you. First of all, I think meme coins are a reincarnation of the ICO wave of 2017, just in a different form. And I believe you and I were already there in 2017. I remember kind of reading your Twitter 2017, 2018. So I'm sure you remember the ICO era very vividly. And it's actually a core similarity here. My whole thesis is that in crypto, it never actually mattered whether the coin was a tech coin or a meme coin. What matters is strong community, a cult-like community, people being very motivated, very inspired, and making the coin their whole identity. So, for example, if you study past cycle winners, right? Again, doesn't matter if it's a tech coin or a meme coin, right? What are the most hardcore cults in crypto history? XRP, Cardano, Link, Doge, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. More recently, this cycle, SPX 6900, Giga, Mob. The thing they have in common is the fact that their community is super, super, super passionate. And at the end of the day, if you reverse engineer that thought process, you have to ask yourself, what makes a community a cult? And in my opinion, the most important factor is in order to build a cult, you need to make poor people rich or middle-class people richer. And what if you do that, what ends up happening is you build this army of 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 people that are super hardcore, passionate evangelists and promoters of the coin. Many of them quit their jobs, do this thing full time, whether it's media, marketing, growth, TikTok, engineering, whatever. They do this for the sake of the coin. And essentially, the problem with the current crop of alts over the past 4 or 5 years is now they're launching at 20 billion, 25 billion, whatever, by the time they're on centralized exchanges, right? But even if you look at Ripple, Cardano, BNB, Link, ETH, they all allowed retail people to buy at like 30 million, which is relatively, I think that's a relatively good market cap, because retail people can join on the journey from 30 million to 30 billion, right? And VCs and retail investors, they are on equal grounds. And this creates a feeling of equality, this feeling of being a part of something fair, something organic, something that is kind of just. And a lot of people really resonate with this. So again, my thesis is, doesn't matter if it's tech or meme, what matters is cheap prices, organic price discovery, and allowing retail to kind of be a part of the whole journey. Not just starting in the billions and then going down, but starting early, starting cheap, and then going into the journey with billions. That is organic growth, and people are going to get their cousins involved, co-workers involved, friends involved, and that's how you grow organically.
It's interesting that you mentioned the ICO hype during 2018. I've been there. I've seen almost every coin disappear, especially the Chinese category that we used to have back in the day, that all just vanished. That created the 2021 VC hype, where you had a lot of coins using VCs to actually start building, which, in my opinion, went exponential at the beginning of this year. That's also where your thesis comes from, where we had Starknet raising at 8 billion valuation. Like, is that utility VC game broken, or what's happening there?
Yes, I think it is broken. And actually, the things you're seeing over the past couple of months, like the rise of organic meme coins, the rise of Hyperliquid, the rise of Mega ETH, Kobe's platform Echo, other platforms like Legion. Essentially, all of this is a counter reaction to VC projects having too many private rounds, starting at too high valuation. And, the crazy stat is, over the next 3 years, there are going to be $300 billion worth of unlocks of VC-backed coins. Again, that's $300 billion that is yet to be sold. And this is at current prices, which means that utility coins and VC-backed coins are going to continue underperforming other categories in 2025. Because remember, meme coins don't have unlocks. BTC has very, very small, modest inflation or whatever, right? And so these $300 billion of the entire altcoin industrial complex, it needs to be sold for profits to be realized. And it's going to act as a permanent headwind, permanent resistance for altcoin outperformance. Now, couple this with the fact that there's simply more tokens, not just meme coin, there's simply more tokens than at any time before. And the total number of meme coins graph looks like this, right? So they are all competing for a relatively limited number of attention and capital. And even in a bull market, the rate of token production per day is always going to outpace the rate of capital inflow, attention inflow per day, right? So I don't think VC altcoins can compete anymore. Meme coins resonate with young people much better. Meme coin people, they are much better at making memes. They're much better at dominating attention, social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and all of that. And the distribution, like in a lot of VC-backed coins, effectively 20 people own 70% of the supply, right? They hide it under like foundation and this whatever, community
Treasury
allocation.
or whatever.
Exactly. But ultimately, it's just like somebody said, altcoins are essentially bundled meme coins. That's what they are. And essentially, people are realizing these facts that I'm talking about right now. And this is like one of the many, many, many reasons why meme coins are dominating right now.
I think you're completely right there. I mean, if you go back into most of the coins that we had back in 2021, they were building nothing. And especially if you look at revenues from most of the layer ones that existed back in that period, and you look at the revenue today, the revenue is super low. But I just can't understand why venture capitals keep on investing at those valuations. Like, is it just because of stupidity or because they get a management fee for allocating funds? What is the what's the idea behind it?
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 reasons. First reason is they're not very good at liquid markets, so they're already narrowed down into the private markets. Now,
Mm-hmm.
within the private markets, there's other VC fund economics incentive, like you said. They care a lot of the times. They care more about as getting as big of an AUM as possible to collect the management fees rather than to make money on the performance fees. Second of all, if they have a large fund, they need to deploy in sort of what are considered to be high total addressable market opportunities, which are mostly layer ones and infra. So essentially, in some ways, their hand is forced. It's kind of the mechanical momentum of the industry from the past. But frankly, I think 9 out of 10 of these investments are going to underperform a lot of the mid-cap liquid meme coins that are already at the market.
And to add to that, I think having experience and being able to address the liquid markets at this point is probably a way better strategy than going into any VC backed coin or like doing
Yes.
a seed round or whatever.
Yes.
Um, then there's another question which maybe you can answer too, which is the secondary markets are starting to rise at this point. I guess there's a ton of coins that are being unlocked in the coming few years, and we've got an X amount of liquidity that mostly is going to the ETFs. But what we also see is that a lot of those unlocks are getting rolled over into new deals where you basically extend the unlocks through anyway marketing services or whatever there is to basically prevent the markets to open dump or the VCs to dump on the open market. Is that changing your thesis in any way, or do you like still have the same thesis despite knowing that it's just getting delayed by a year or two?
No, I think it's just postponing the inevitable. Ultimately, you know, fundamentally, even if you ignore the unlock stuff, these things are valued way too highly. When they're going to
True.
be launched on liquid markets, they're already going to be in the multiple billions compared to some of the best meme coins right now in December 2024 that are still trading at like 200, 300 million or whatever, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think the upside on meme coins is going to continue to be better. They talk to young people in a much more understanding fashion. I think young people resonate with the meme coins at a much greater level. VCs, San Francisco, Coatsell, the tech founders, they 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 aren't as quite connected to the emerging culture. They're stuck in the 2021 paradigm. I think 2021 was the peak of the golden age of VC, and right now you're already seeing people either launch liquid funds or straight up just trading liquid instruments. And I think this is the next evolution of crypto that is frankly much more in line with the decentralization ethos of 2016, 2017. And I think all of these are good things. People are simply going to refuse to buy VC bags at 5 billion. It's not going to work anymore.
No, I agree. And to be honest, as I just mentioned, being a trader and investor, we both are. It is just way better to wait for launches, see them go down by 80%, buying it on the open markets, and knowing that you can set it at any time that you want, which is in line with the thesis of meme coins. But then what we saw is that earlier this year we have those VC-backed coins with the article from Binance, and currently some projects are doing fair launches on a way lower valuation. Is that actually providing a better structure? But the only thing is that many VCs are getting wrecked at launch. But if we are
Yes.
going to get fair launches or lower valuations, is that going to be the right direction, or do we
Yeah.
need to add some more?
I think this recent trend for fair launches and lower valuations is a good thing because those valuations, even if they're not going to be perfect, they're closer to the truth of where the project's development is at this point in time, especially if
Yeah.
it's a test net or pre-launch or whatever. So again, I think this is markets becoming more efficient, and founders are realizing it's better to launch at a lower valuation and then grow together with the community rather than just to launch super high and then just bleed forever.
Yeah, I completely agree on that point. And that is like meme coins are also fair launches in some way because you were actually able to buy at a short term after launch if you were able to take all the risk at that specific point in time. So, talking about meme coins, how do you derive which meme coin you add to your list?
Yeah, so many variables here, but this is, and again, my answer to this question would be different depending on where we are in the cycle.
Yeah.
And even every couple of months, my answer would be different. But the way I think of it, first I'll answer this question from the perspective of kind of like 6 to 8 months ago when I was first accumulating my current portfolio, and then I'll answer this question from the point of view right now. So back then, what I did was I avoided all new launches. I focused on coins that were already kind of at least 6 months old or more. I focused on coins that already had at least two 70% drops. Because if there's a drop like this and the coin survived, that means that there's that special energy in the community. I want the coin to be not a Kabbalah coin, not a VC coin, not a bundled coin, but rather as decentralized, organic, bottom-up, distributed, decentralized as possible. And I was looking at other metrics like holder growth rates, diamond-handed ratios, and on the more subjective qualitative side, I needed to resonate with the meme, right? Furthermore, what I did was I kind of broken down the meme coin space into 7 or 8 categories. And then my whole philosophy is if large money, high net worth individuals or TradFi ever come into memes in 2025, which I believe they will, they're simply going to buy the leaders of the category, right? They're not going to bother with cat number 20 on chain number 11, right? They're just going to go for the leaders. So I always just focus on the leaders. I bought 1 or 2 cat coins. I bought 1 or 2 culture coins. I bought a couple of masculinity coins. I bought a couple of mission movement coins, etc. And so I was diversified across categories, across kind of like IQ curve, neurotypical curve, and kind of personality curve, etc. And I think like that has been my whole strategy. Now, 6-7 months later, the way I think of it is, I think if I had to highlight one concept going into 2025, as somebody who's already been in crypto for 3 cycles, that the biggest moves happen in year 4 of the cycle, right? And right now, let's operate this discussion under the assumption that there's going to be a 4-year cycle once again. We are at the end of year 3, about to enter year 4, quote unquote, right? And if you agree with me that we roughly have 1 year of the cycle to go, then this is probably where the craziest moves will happen. Now, consider the fact that in meme coins, the rate of meme coin production per day is growing rapidly. Back in the spring of this year, it was 5,000 coins per day. Right now, it's 50,000 coins per day. Next year, it's going to be 500,000 coins per day. So the risk reward of gambling on new launches, I believe it's becoming worse and worse. And at the same time, I do think Doge is going to $1, but that's like 2-3x from here, right? I think the best risk reward right now is in the mid caps. That's in the coins that are between 100 million to 1.5 billion. And I think these coins, some of them still have this 30x, 50x, maybe even 100x potential. And I think these are the coins that you want to be focused on. As many people know, I'm all about cults. What are cults? Essentially super, super strong community. We're trying to find the Ripples and the Cardanos in the meme coin world, right? And this is what I'm trying to identify. Which communities have this like crazy, like cult-like spirit? I think these are going to be the best performers next year.
Hey, as you know, I'm a huge football fan, and our sponsor OKX is currently running a promotion with Manchester City. If you create a new account and you deposit €1,000 and you keep it on there for 7 days, you get one of those shirts for free at your home. And on top of that, you might be able to win a 2-person VIP all-paid experience to go to Manchester City, Chelsea. Go to okx.com/cryptomidchannel. Make sure to get that account, and maybe we'll see each other at the Manchester City game. And if you look at it for your own portfolio in terms of you've got like 25 or 30 on the list, I guess. Um, how, like, if you know that it's going to be the last 10% in time is 90% of the move, usually that's what you call the parabolic curve for the exponential phase. How are you going to manage all those positions in your portfolio?
Yeah. So, you know, right now I have 10 to 12 coins in my portfolio. You know, um, I've been telling people not to spray and pray too much because not just inside crypto, but even inside meme coins, there's a lot of dispersion.
Yeah.
99% of things, they die, and they die even quicker than altcoins. You want to find those less than 1% of coins that have that special sauce, that have hardcore believers, that are working on listings, that are working on distribution, that are working on TikTok, and that are just going very, very hard. And you want coins where a lot of the supply is concentrated in the hands of investors, hodlers, believers, rather than traders. That's the most
Mhm.
important thing to understand.
So I completely agree on that point. In terms of the holders, I think you briefly mentioned that with VCs and VC-backed tokens, like a few wallets have 70% of the supply in their own hands. How do you measure the supply being divided between the holders with the meme coins that you're investing in?
Yeah.
Because some meme coins also have big investors, right? How do you
Yes.
handle that?
Yes. So there are actually over 12 different metrics and tools that you can use to measure this. Actually, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I did a big tweet that went into all of these metrics. And there are websites that help you identify these metrics. There is holderscan.com, there is bubblemaps.com, there is
Hmm.
unis.ai. Essentially, you can look at Gini coefficient, you can look at median holder sizes, you can look at HHI ratio, you can look at how many holders there are which have 1K ownership or more. You can look at how much is owned by top 100 addresses, top 25 clusters. You can look at the early blocks of the coin, how much was sniped or bundled, and how much of it was organic. You can look at the percentage of the supply that's in the hands of middle class, upper middle class, quote unquote, holders. And essentially, there's a bunch more of these which you can use to check and compare different meme coins together to see how decentralized they are.
All right. I think that's a good tip for the listeners. And then I think, again, going into all those meme coins, I mean, for a retail investor, I think the previous cycles, they went away investing into a token that basically went to zero, which was the actual fair value for most of the altcoins during the day. But then if you talk about hype and meme coins, there's always that thing that's called demand and supply. So due to hype or due to some momentum, the price chart goes parabolic. So my question would be, how can someone that's a retail investor derive whether or not they need to be stepping into a meme coin or when to get out? That's also a very important part. How do you manage those things?
Yeah. So I think, you know, if BTC continues to go higher, I think meme coins continue to outperform, especially those with critical mass. In terms of BTC itself, I think as the asset class is becoming increasingly institutional, it's going to be increasingly sensitive to various kind of global macro TradFi, central bank metrics, money supply growth, liquidity
Hmm.
metrics, etc. So I think next year it will be very important to pay attention to those. Ultimately, I think meme coins will top whenever BTC tops, and BTC will top whenever money supply / liquidity tops, right? So these all things are interconnected. And I think meme coins are simply a very high beta to BTC and the total market capitalization overall.
Yes, I think that is also in line with previous cycles having altcoins. That's why I think that the phrase altcoins have most sense for meme coins nowadays, because you basically have that split where you have altcoins being meme coins, also tech coins doing nothing, not sharing revenue. And then you've got a category from Web 2 jumping into Web 3, making actual revenue. and sharing that with the investor through staking, whatever they do. How do you see that sort of landscape of coins coming into the space right now?
Yeah. So I think hopefully with increased clarity around regulation, more DeFi and infra projects will be able to distribute revenues to their stakeholders in one form or another. I think this is a good thing because now we will be able to finally value DeFi assets, governance coins, utility coins based on traditional metrics rather
Mm-hmm.
than based on like memetics or narrative or momentum or whatever, right? And I think, again, this is one of the reasons why I think the space is becoming more mature. That being said, you know, even the high revenue generating coins, if they were valued purely on revenue generation, I think they would already be either fairly valued or overvalued. My issue is that these things eventually become effectively stocks. They're
Mm-hmm.
effectively going to become equity on chain. But people who come to crypto, they don't come to crypto to dabble in equities. They come to crypto to find 100x. And this is why I think the 100x's, regardless of whether regulation is going to be more clear or not, the 100x's is not going to happen in DeFi. The 100x's is going to happen in memes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or very low valued altcoins, but that's
Yeah.
it's super difficult to grasp, I guess. But if you talk about equities, I mean, we've got the biggest cults in equities nowadays.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We do. You mean Tesla's, Apples of the world, right?
Nvidia nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just and the interesting part is that with those cults, these valuations went through the roof as well. It's just irrational. How do
Yep.
you see that compared to like
Yeah.
valuations in crypto?
So the way I see it is, it's actually very similar. I think each of those companies have different components that drive their valuation. I think there is obviously a real kind of revenue and profit component, but there's
Hmm.
also the mimetic component. And these mimetics, it's not just about meme coins or crypto. I think because of inflationary pressures in the global financial system, attention, community, cultiness, narratives, and memes, they increasingly play a big role in all of finance, including traditional equities, like you're alluding to. So I think even Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, and this often happens with category leaders, a big part of their valuation is mimetic in nature as well. Not all, but significant.
And I think it's also, but that's touching upon something that we just discussed. It's just the wealth gap is so large at this point that the people are pushed down the risk curve far over their own risk, not understanding the risks that they take. And that is when they decide to invest into Nvidia if they buy stocks. They invest into meme coins if they want to make that jump. When and how do you think that people are going to change in their risk appetite? Or is that just something part of the hyperinflationary period that we're currently in?
Yeah. Um, I think
Unfortunately, by the
this,
way.
yeah. So I think it's hard to see a real kind of deflationary period in the system as long as they continue kind of pumping liquidity into like the global financial machine. Um, I think just for the next several years, it's likely that all of these risk assets are going to continue to rise unless something breaks, unless one of the facilities breaks, unless something goes wrong. Uh, you know, these things, it's not the era of value investing anymore because the
Hmm.
global money supply keeps rapidly increasing. Whether you like it or not, the game theory is just to push it into stocks, real estate, BTC, and to some extent, even meme coins, right? And essentially, money is just going to keep piling into these things.
I mean, value investing is something that we did in the 90s, I guess. Right now, it's just the dollar becomes, well, less value over time. So you want to
Yep.
be in something else. Um, then the question is, when are people saying, hey, I just quit my job. I just don't make any money with this. I'm going to go either spend all my time in a community with a meme coin, or I'm going to use all my time to get rewarded with DeFi or Deepin. What's the tipping point for that? There are many people from a younger generation than me. I'm 31. Uh, not pursuing schools anymore, not pursuing the regular jobs anymore. They just
Yep.
go full digital into crypto or e-commerce or whatever.
Yes.
That could
So
break them.
this is the way I see it. Young people, they pretty much, if you compare all the generations, Zoomers and Gen Alpha, and even some of the younger millennials, they don't really have any money. They don't have any political power, and they don't have any status. You have to ask yourself, what is the one thing that young people are good at? And that is social media. And I think this is one of the 20 reasons why meme coins are emerging, because meme coins are social media assets. They speak social media language, they exist on social media rails, and they are a part of the attention economy. So essentially, I think young people are effectively forcing, and emergingly making a new asset class happen, which are meme coins. And I actually think meme coins are a wrong name. The correct word for them are tokenized communities. And these tokenized communities are effectively competing against one another to attract new members.
And when you talk about those tokenized communities, I think I briefly touched upon this already, but what are the risks associated with investing into tokenized communities? We're going to talk about the future in a little bit, but I just wanted to address that topic.
Yeah. So first of all, it's an extremely, extremely competitive space. Like I already said, 6 months ago, we had 5,000 coins per day being created. Now we have 50,000 coins per day being created. And next year, I wouldn't even be surprised if we have 1 million coins per day being created. So you need to understand that there is going to be more assets than there is attention. There's going to be more assets than there is money. So you, as an investor, you can either gamble or you can kind of create a framework to filter down these assets. And I've already alluded to this. You want to buy category leaders. You want to buy coins that have already been out for 6 months. You want to buy coins that already have good price performance structure on at least medium term and high time frame patterns, right? You want to buy coins, most importantly, where the community holder base continues to grow week to week, month to month. I think that last point is probably the most important.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think the question that probably a lot of people have is, if you buy into those, what makes you decide to switch or to swap towards different coins? Because as you mentioned, the time span or the attention span is super short when it comes to meme coins.
Yep.
So it can quickly rotate to something else. And we've seen that happening over the past, like, let's say 4 to 5 months. So what makes you decide to swap?
Yeah, so I have a very unique strategy that's different to, I think, a lot of other meme coin participants. I have never sold a coin. Instead, this is the thing, right? You need to decide. Either you're going to be a scalp/swing trader, or you're going to be a high conviction believer investor. It's a very bad idea to mix the two, right? And then you have to understand that if you're going to be a trader, then it's a timing game. But if you're going to be a believer, then it's an asset selection and community building game. So I have never sold a coin this cycle, at least not in the 10 coins that I've put on my top 10 list. And I plan to hold all of my positions until Q4 of 2025, maybe even Q1 of 2026. I think if you study past crypto cycles, the biggest earners, the biggest gainers are people that have bought into the top leaders of like the top narratives of the cycle, and they kept holding for 1 or 2 years. And I've been preaching this. I still think we have another year to go, or plus or minus. And my whole philosophy is just to hodl until the very end.
What are you going to do after with it? I know you're a Bitcoin maxi, so
Probably a mix of fiat and BTC, depending on what I think is happening with like BTC and global macro.
yeah, and then probably like what would it take to all those communities to be multi-cycle? I think, to be honest, with meme coins, the ones from 2021 have shown that they can exist in the new cycle. It's actually more coins from 2021 exist right now, but that's because in the cycle before that we had the ICO saga where all the treasuries were in ETH, so they basically got screwed over by having treasury in ETH, not being able to pay out their employees. So more and more coins still exist, but the meme coin category is very strong. Pepe, Doge, Shiba, Floki, all the ones from 2021 still exist. So what would it take for those meme coins to go into multi-cycles?
Yeah. So the way I see it is, like you said, Doge and some others like Floki have already proven that multi-cycle meme coins are possible. We already know that this is not fantasy. Even though there's going to be millions of coins created this cycle, I think from the 2023, 2024 crop of meme coins, there will probably be 5 or 6 that end up being multi-cycle. And it's actually those that I am interested in because I want to be a community member for like more than one cycle. It is just a much more relaxing life, much better life. And I do think some of them will become multi-cycle. And those are the ones that I encourage other people to try to identify.
And I think, yeah, well, we don't know. We need to wait until the next cycles come to see which ones are still existing. But if you talk about the future of meme coins, I think right now it's just creating communities, which was also tried through NFTs. Back in the previous cycles, we had Bored Ape Yacht Club and all those things that basically tried to create a community and then kind of failed. What is required for those meme coins to go into the next layer? So
Yeah.
I think you mentioned being a brand, but like building utility additional on all the utilities that they have. What's next?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, let's compare meme coins to NFTs. The thesis is actually quite similar. Both are tokenized communities and various forms of tokenization of the intangible. But when it comes to NFTs, even in the best collections, what you have is a situation where you have 4,000 holders roughly promoting 10,000 illiquid JPEG. But in meme coins, you're going to have 1 million people promoting one single liquid coin. You can already sense how much more efficient and effective that is from like a financial engineering standpoint, right? And the other problem with NFTs is that the high floor price becomes their own demise. Why? Because, it prices out low income and middle income people from participating in the movement, right? But with meme coins, because they are fungible and liquid, anybody can join with any amount of money at any time. So essentially, I believe that meme coins are going to be 50 to 100x bigger than what NFTs were. Essentially, meme coins are NFTs done right. Now, in terms of what it will take in terms of utility, I think there are many pathways here. I like to say that utility is bullish in bear markets and it's bearish in bull markets. Essentially, when you are when you're fully risk on, you want as low utility and as high memetics as possible. Maximum attention, maximum speculation, none of the utility stuff. And when it's bear market, you want utility because that creates a floor. Essentially, utility creates a floor, but it also creates a ceiling because when you have utility, you have expectations. You have expectations of software, KPIs, metrics, revenues, users. But when you don't have that, your only KPI is pure growth, pure attention, pure holder base. And that can spread around the world much quicker than software. So I like to say that meme coins, they are post-software assets.
Yeah, and also what I tried, I was like thinking about shopping in Paris and stuff. I don't know why, but in terms of brands, I think like some of these meme coins are comparable in terms of impact to Pokemon or any of those brands that we used to have when we were a child. Are we going to see new utilities being created or revenue streams being created out of the meme coin? So basically just the next layer on top of it. where you can start
Yeah,
spending your meme coin into merch or go to events like the NFTs try to do.
yeah. So, we already have examples like Floppy and like Shib that started adding utility to their coin in the bear market. I
Hmm.
do think you will see some of the current crop of meme coins do that in 2026, 2027, whenever that may be. This is how I think it's going to happen. I think some meme coins will do some DeFi stuff. Some meme coins will become investment DAOs. Some meme coins will make turn into lifestyle brands, fashion brands, and I think others will just stay as pure meme coins. So it depends. There's no one path, one recipe for success. I think different meme coins will try all of these paths, and we'll see which ones succeed and which ones are not. But I think as long as it's a full bull market, I think pure memetics is better than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's the right one. I think also if you look at valuations and actual utility, you can make a return into DeFi, for instance, like Aave. Those are building through, but the ROI is going to be way less because you're actually able to measure the revenue. So
Yep.
is that where the difference between, I would say, retail clients or retail investors with a relatively small portfolio compared to the high portfolio individuals come in?
Yeah. So this is how I think about it, right? If you start getting revenues, getting users, etc., then some people will start valuing you as a stock, as a quasi on-chain company, as a DAO, and that kind of puts a limit to what you can achieve. The beauty of meme coins is that there's no revenue, there's no
Hmm.
usage, there's no software, there's no platform, and because of that, you can go as high as the dream allows. We saw Dogecoin go to 93 billion. We saw Shiba Inu go to 46 billion. And none of them had much software. Like it wasn't because of software or whatever or revenues that they went that high. It was purely a cultural phenomenon. And I think as long as the liquidity conditions are good, as long as BTC is going up, you don't want to be adding too much utility to your coin.
No, but I mean, there are many quote unquote RWA projects currently having real revenue that come into the markets with actually some of those projects that are currently between 30 to 60 million have the exact same revenue as most of the old layer ones have.
Yep.
Um, and of course, the revenue of today is not the revenue of 5 years from now, and that's the difference, and that's how you invest. It's more or less value investing. What do you think about that change in the market, and when is that actual shift into either meme coins and either revenue based going to come in?
Yeah. So I can't speak for institutions, but the way I see it is retail participants in crypto don't care about revenue. They're
Hmm.
not here for the revenues. If they wanted revenues, they could just go and invest in stocks or even penny stocks in the real world. If you actually look at price performance of revenue producing, like legit revenue producing DeFi platforms in 2024, some have been okay. Some with decent revenues have not even done well, right? Which means that crypto markets value assets based on momentum, branding, prestige, community, and attention, rather than as like a discounted cash flow valuation, right? So I think
Hmm.
on the retail side, if you're looking for 100x in crypto, 50x in crypto, it's probably going to come because of some retail wave, and retail people don't care about revenue. That's the way I see the situation.
How do you? I think this is also an interesting angle. How do you see the regulations either in the US or Europe coming in when it comes to meme coins? Is it going to like push down the rev or the ROI that you can make on utility coins, and it's going to push forward the meme coins?
I don't think there's going to be much regulation on the meme coin side because, again, I am not a lawyer and this is not
Yeah.
financial or legal advice. But from what I've read, there are many lawyers out there who do not believe that meme coins are securities. if you actually had to compare meme coins to other assets, meme coins are the
Yeah,
least likely to be securities because they're actually more like collectibles. They're more like jewelry. They're more like art. They're more like just the token, right? There's no promise of profit. There's no promise of revenue. And because of that, I think the regulatory risk to meme coins is much smaller than to other categories.
Yeah, that's actually true. I think that if you look at what is a security, then probably XRP comes in, or perhaps even Ethereum, which is still undefined. Regarding Ethereum, what's your view on that one? As in, I know that, as I said, you're looking into Bitcoin and meme coins, but there is also a use case for Ethereum, I would say.
So in order to understand why Ethereum has been underperforming so far this cycle, you need to understand why it has been outperforming in past cycles. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because you needed ETH in order to gamble. In 2017, you needed ETH in order to gamble on ICOs. In 2020, 2021, you needed ETH in order to gamble on yield farming, DeFi, Ponzi's, NFTs, metaverse, etc. And the problem is that no one is using ETH to gamble right now. People have switched to Solana to gamble. That's why Sol ETH has gone 6x since the beginning, since like the recent global low. And I kind of think that there will be pockets of outperformance for ETH, and we're probably entering into that zone right now. But on like cyclical basis, on a year-long basis, Solana will probably outperform ETH because young people need to buy Sol tokens in order to gamble on meme coins, in order to invest in meme coins, etc. Ultimately, I think if we're talking 10, 15-year timeframes, I strongly prefer BTC over both ETH and Sol.
And if you talk about all those other chains and meme coins, of course, it's way too expensive to be gambling on ETH at this point. But because Solana is doing so well with the meme coins, you see Sui meme coins, you see Base meme coins, you see Optimism meme coins, Arbiter meme coins. How do you see the expansion towards other chains? And are you taking any of those into consideration, or is it just purely Solana?
I don't like meme coins that are outside of Ethereum and Solana and maybe BTC. The reason for that is because there's just not that much money on those chains. Like on ETH, there's a lot of wealth, idle wealth that's parked in ETH and stablecoins. On Solana, there's a lot of idle wealth that's parked on Sol and stablecoins. On BTC, there's a lot of wealth that's parked in BTC. But in other coins, there's just not that much wealth. The way to think about it is blockchains are distribution mechanisms. Essentially, consider different blockchains like different centralized exchanges. You need a lot of money to be parked there in order to create sustainable runs to tens of billions. And ultimately, if your coin is on a bunch of centralized exchanges, it doesn't matter anymore. But in order to build that early community, I always biased for ETH and Sol because that's where the money is. Other coins just don't have that kind of money to take a meme coin to 3 billion or higher.
Well, that's a fair point. I think all the other chains, maybe Sui is getting there, but that's probably one for like later next year when the hype starts to kick in. But it comes down to the strongest cult is basically the one having the biggest network effect. And I think the biggest cult that we have in crypto is currently Bitcoin. And I think the biggest cult that we have in the world is just basically fiat currency, which we don't need to use anyways, but the governments say that we need to. Like, how do you see that in comparison to to Bitcoin as being the oldest cult out there? What's your view on that one?
Yeah. So BTC is the original cult. It's the strongest one in crypto by far. Is the one with the largest following and the most amount of passion behind it. It kind of paved the way to Litecoin, which paved the way to Dogecoin, which paved the way to the Memecoin supercycle right now. My whole theory is the more similar a meme coin is to BTC, the bigger it's going to become. We've already seen with Doge a little bit. We've seen with some others. And I think right now, there are a couple of meme coins that also give me this early Doge, early BTC vibes. And essentially, why is this powerful? Because you have hardcore hodlers, you have hardcore passion, People think that their meme coin is improving the world, and they genuinely believe in that mission, you know? And this is the recipe that BTC has pioneered and perfected.
And then I think I was just thinking about this, but look, you are in the space since 2013-ish.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was an anti-governmental play to invest into Bitcoin. Currently, we are shouting for the ETFs, where all the institutional investors get into Bitcoin. And if I understand you correctly, then the liquidity that we get into the markets through the ETF is basically going to push the meme coins even higher.
I think so, because I think a lot of people are going to be coming into the space and they're going to be like, oh, BTC is already at 100K, 150K.
Yeah.
I've missed the boat. I need to go further out the risk curve. What has been doing well thus far? What has my friend made money on? What are the stories I'm hearing on the street, in my iMessage, in my WhatsApp? It's going to be meme coins. That's where most of the new money, new wealth, young generation wealth has been created so far. And these stories are going to percolate across society, and people are going to pile onto memes even more.
It's actually true. I mean, back in 2017, friends of mine told me, hey, I made money with XRP. And currently it's just only meme coins. But if you talk about Bitcoin, what is your view when it comes to Michael Saylor and just having very big participants coming into Bitcoin, grabbing a big amount of supply, and potentially going to be moving markets at some point? As at this point, I think Michael Saylor has like 4 or 5%, which if you talk to other institutional investors, they say, well, if one party is going to have such a big chunk of the supply, we rather don't want to have it at all.
Yeah. Now, I think it's fine. I think the market is not going to care about him having. I actually believe it's like 2.2% right now or whatever for him, and he will eventually. I do believe he will eventually have 3, 4, 5% or whatever. You know, if there's one person that you want to own 3, 4, 5% of supply, it's him, because he's actually working for his bags, right? He's working to get hyper Bitcoinization to happen, and what he's doing right now is absolute genius. He's exploiting the fact that a lot of institutions, for a variety of reasons, can't buy BTC outright. They need to buy other quasi BTC exposure instruments, and he's juicing that very aggressively for everything that he can. And honestly, I think he's a positive force for BTC.
Yeah, I agree, but I just try to be devil's advocate. And there are also sounds, or like people are saying that the ones that are holding the debt for MicroStrategy, that's actually where the risk lies. And if at this point he keeps on adding at higher valuations for Bitcoin, that at some point in time his average price will be substantially high, and there will be that standard 80% correction taking place. Would that be a risk for crypto?
No, I don't think so. First of all, I don't think, well, depending on how harsh the next recession is or whatever, but ultimately, I don't think we're going to see an 80% correction. I believe last one was already 70%. The one before was 80%. I think the next one might be 60% or 50%. We'll see. But the supply right now is getting increasingly concentrated in the hands of MicroStrategy, ETFs, corporates, etc., that are just not going to be dumping like retail was in previous cycles. So I would be shocked if the next bear market had an 80% drop. A 60% drop would not surprise me, but an 80% drop would. Nevertheless, if it were to happen, I think the crypto space would survive. Volatility is something that we've dealt with for the past 3 cycles, and it's going to be fine in the end.
Yeah, I mean, another 80% cycle would probably turn me a few years older again, but it's just part of the game. The only thing that I can imagine that we're going to have an 80% correction is when this cycle goes 2017 style way higher than we all expect. Like, at this time, we're still in a bear market PTSD where people expect Bitcoin to only go to 120K and then have a bear market. I think that's relatively well, safe to say we are almost there. I think if we go to 500,000 or higher, then it's also not irrational to say, well, a 70 to 80% could be possible. And I think what comes to mind is my question. I think we align on this is what's next for Bitcoin when it comes to the 4-year cycles. I know that in another podcast you mentioned, well, at some point in time we're going to lose it, and I think that's an interesting angle because at this point in time there are so many investors just grabbing the actual date of October 2025 I need to sell, that likely this cycle is not going to peak at that specific moment.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see 200K at least, maybe higher. And I
Conservative,
think,
but
yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in that 200 to 50K zone.
yeah. But in terms of like the 4-year cycle, what's your view on that one?
I think it's gonna happen again, or more or less, right? A lot of people think it's not gonna happen again. I think 3 times we've already seen a cycle be almost exactly 4 years, right? And I think the odds of that occurring again are pretty high in my book. But again, it's going to all depend on TradFi global macro liquidity metric.
And one thing that going into the future is like, to my understanding, every cycle becomes more complex. 2017, everything just went up. 2021, it became a bit more selective. This cycle, it becomes even more selective. In this case, meme coins, but also many coins due to the dilution are not going to move. So how do you see the crypto landscape for the next 2 to 3 years going forward?
Yeah, I think this trend is going to continue, this trend of dispersion. I think the winners are going to keep winning, and 99% of coins are just going to bleed down. And I agree with you. The space is becoming harder because, like you said, in 2017, everything went up. In 2021, some things went up. And right now, only a few things go up. And I think this is totally normal because there's more and more tokens. So you have to be very, very selective.
And yeah, I mean, for me as an altcoin investor, I'm not the meme coin expert like you are, but I try to get into it, which I usually do through just trading on TA. To be honest, there's a lot of liquidity in meme coins. It's very organic price action. It's great to trade on those if they are listed on centralized exchanges, by the way. But
if you want my advice, stop trading and believe in something.
yeah, I do. But I do have other coins though. I try to still be very ethical in the sense that I think that value investing makes sense, but maybe I'm just foolish. I don't know. We'll talk in a few years again, I guess. Then the thing is that what is your thesis when it comes to those meme coins for the coming years? Because also that is going to be way more complex. Are you just going to use your own like narrative list or variable list and decide the ones to invest in? Because 6 months ago we only had a few and now we have a big bucket of altcoins, and that is just going to be bigger, just like the altcoin verticals are.
I have very high conviction on my current holdings. I think some of them are going to go to 20, 30, 50 billion and higher. And I intend to hold until Q4 2025, Q1 2026. I said this on numerous podcasts, and I'm simply a buy and hold believer. I think this strategy will outperform everybody.
And how do you handle it when everybody can see your wallet or being like a public figure out there?
I just already got used to it. I don't check the charts. I don't have any portfolio trackers. I just keep hustling for the meme coin.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be very difficult to just see your own wallet on social media where everybody has an opinion. Like there was some sort of things going around on you personally on the positions that you had. Is there some pressure, or you just simply do not care and you're just living your life?
Actually, I think it's the opposite. I think it's going to act with great marketing in the coming quarter because, you know, I think these coins are going higher. I think some of these coins have another 100x to go. And when that is going to be happening, everybody is going to be using my story as a success story. And people will be piling both into those same coins as well as meme coins overall. And there's no better marketing in crypto than somebody catching 100x or 1000x or whatever And essentially, my story is going to act as a perpetual marketing machine. So I'm just very looking forward to that.
And well, that's actually true. It just reminds me of what we used to have in 2017 with the altcoins, with McAfee, where he had the coin of the week or whatever that also had a different impact. But like, you're one of the bigger, primarily players in the space at this point, where everything that you do is going to move the markets in some way. You mentioned that you're looking to sell later this year, but that's more of the trader and invest, or like next year.
No.
More of the trader.
At the end of next year.
Yeah. Q4 2025.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from that perspective, it could also have a tremendous impact on the meme coins in general. If someone sees you selling, how are you going to prepare on that? Because it's a different dynamics than right now, and it's also a different like idea or strategy.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be a ton or more people joining the crypto space, and specifically the meme coin space next year. I think 1 year from now, there is going to be more volume, more liquidity, more listings, more partnership, more people, more holders, whereby my role as an individual will grow smaller.
Just like Michael Saylor has almost no impact on his own Bitcoin position or Bitcoin in general.
Yeah, and the more Bitcoin grows, the less his impact is going to be, I think.
I agree, yeah. And I think if we have like the next year's cycle, what are you going to do if there's going to be a super cycle? Instead of generally peaking next year, but we're going to have a longer cycle. What's your strategy going to be?
Yeah, this is why I said Q4 2025 or even early 2026. The cycle could go longer than we think. I don't believe in like super cycle outright, but I can see the cycles become longer. Ultimately, just like the planets, just like neural circuitry and neurochemistry of people, I think things move in cycles. They will continue to move in cycles, both with the world economy and the crypto space and the meme coin space. So I do think we'll continue to see, maybe it's not going to be 4-year cycles, maybe it's going to be some other version, but there will be some form of bulls and bears.
Is that then that Bitcoin is going to have longer cycles and the narratives will have the shorter cycles still as we can see it?
I think Bitcoin will continue driving everything.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, at some point in time, the global liquidity is going to go down. Whether or not it's because of a recession or whether it's because parties are calling in their debt, it's going to crack down at some point.
Yeah, and when that happens, I think both BTC and other crypto assets are going to go down.
Yeah, because the correlation is just super high at this point. What's your game plan going to be when there is such a big recession taking place? Just staying in cash and waiting, or?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to sell half of my positions, and for the other half, I'll just keep holding for multicycle.
I'll probably invest into some more meme coins, I would say.
Yeah, later after taking a break. But if I would be diversifying probably into a mix of fiat, BTC, and real estate or something.
Are you also interested into anything outside of crypto and in things like commodities or stocks, or you just like want to play high beta games?
I'm not interested because I think it's better to specialize.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. All right. I've asked all my questions, so I'm going to thank you very much for being on this show. I'm looking forward to be talking to you next year again. Is there anything that you would like to share to new people coming into the markets, listening to this podcast, wondering about meme coins? How should they get started?
Not financial advice, but research SPX 6900 and Giga. I believe they have another 50 to 150x to go. Research these communities because they're continuing to grow very fast week to week, and I think they're going to be the SHIB and Doge of this cycle.
I'm quite sure that they can find it on your Twitter. The link for your Twitter will be in the description beneath, so people are going to watch it. Thank you very much, Murad.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man.
Thank you.